What's going on, guys? One of the most common questions I get all the time is how do you get ready for each deck? We're going to go one by one through the format, breaking down what every deck does, showing their combo, how do you hand trap them, common counters that are main decked versus them, and what can you side deck versus these decks. Welcome to 10-Minute Takedown. So we're back again. We already did virtual worlds. Now we're moving on to Drytron. You just saw a random test hand that I played out. Again, I am not an expert on any of these decks. So, well, not most of them, but Drytron I'm definitely not an expert on. So maybe there's a different way to play it, but I saw a way to actually play it before Nibiru, and I know playing against Drytron a lot of time I can use Nibiru to my advantage, but we are able to put out ultimateness by the 5th summon with that test hand. So some of what we say here may be a little counterproductive because they can play before Nibiru, but not every hand will be able to, and we'll kind of just go from there. So again, there may have been a better way to play that out, but ending with at least 3 disruptions. And you still have the Beatrice send where you could have sent an extender on that first turn, like a Delta, and ended up getting an extra draw, and then you send Eva in the standby phase of your opponent's turn, and then you get those cards that way. That would have been another possible option. But yeah, so Drytron, what do they do? Well, they use Beatrice to get like access to Eva, which is just insane, and thank goodness Eva at least went to 1, but I mean, it does a little bit, but I feel like Eva at 1 is still fine because most decks already only played the 1 copy. They can go for like Verde or IP Masquerena. Like in that hand, had we gone for Verde instead of IP, the Dragoon obviously could pitch one of the spells, whereas the Ultimateness cannot. So it gives you a big towers with another Omni Negate, but you run those couple extra bricks. I wasn't really sure if Drytron's on it a bunch. I know that they can play through Droll better with it, so maybe they are still playing it, and that is something you may have to look out for. Otherwise, the Herald of Ultimateness or Perfection, depending what build they go for. Personally, I think Ultimateness is the better card, but, you know, I guess that's kind of up to the people who play the deck a lot more regular to decide which is truly the better card. They have a lot of extenders, and they just build such strong boards going first. If you break through their board, though, you usually, if you can set up a couple disruption, are in a really good spot versus them. It's trying to break through their board when they can negate your summons, they can negate all your effects, they can do all these things as long as they have the cards in hand to discard for it. It makes it really, really difficult. And then when they run out, if either they have the Dragoon for another negate, or they have the IP and they can either wait and go into like an Underworld Goddess with one of your cards, or they can go into Nightmare Unicorn and just spin your card back to the deck. And like I said, they still have that Beatrice, the second Beatrice too. I didn't want to dig too much into it and get like random text that are people doing. I tried to keep the video more generic, but I know I have actually seen them send like Beatrice send over text, add pill, and then make it Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. I've seen that a couple times, and just some really crazy stuff like that. So keep your eye out. Like Drytron can really do a lot, and Beatrice just enables so much. Dumping a card and then getting it back from the graveyard. Like I said, dumping extenders, dumping Eva. Like they can do so much with that Beatrice, and obviously if they open Eva, that's even better because Ultimateness then can discard the Eva, and then they get 2 more. So then you actually get the 3 negates off your Ultimateness just because of that Eva. Going second, they do play Droplet and Talent a lot of the time, and try and break through your boards. They have cards like Zeus, and they can just put up a lot of bodies, and they actually, a lot of them do play the 1 Ritual Drytron, the 4K beater, the big one. So I mean, it's not like the deck has to go first or else they lose. They definitely can go first, or go first and they lose. They definitely can go second. So let's get on into what do you hand trap versus Drytron. Well, Ash, I prefer to Ash the Diviner for a couple reasons. One, you stop the Beatrice play, which stops the Evo play unless they opened it in their hand, and you stop the search that you get off of the Arclight. So by ashing the Diviner, you are cutting off a combo line and you're stopping a search. So it's really strong. Like you could ash, I don't know, you could Ash the Ben 10, you could Ash the Alpha, you can Ash the Zeta if you really want, but then you're just trading one for one and hoping that they don't have the extenders to push through. Whereas if you Ash the Diviner, you're basically a 2-for-1. I mean, it's still technically a 1-for-1, but they're going to go into a Beatrice, which can send Eva, which actually gets 2 in hand, and they're going to go and get that Arclight card. So you're actually going +2 if you kind of look at the end board of what you're doing if you Ash that Diviner instead. Bell and Meister here. I'm gonna say Bell and Meister hit the ritual spell. I don't know if people have really caught on to that. That's something I've always advocated for. If they do play two, they have a little bit like they have other ways to get access to it, but just recycling that ritual spell so many times, that's how the deck plays so good. And personally, I was playing two in that build, and I like to play each deck a little bit to try and gain some knowledge on how they function. I do think two is correct, because otherwise, like we'll get to here in a second, like if you play one and you lose access to it, like you're done. You can't do anything. You're done. So like cutting off their access to the ritual spell hurts so much, and that's why Bell and Meister are really good on the Medianus Drytron. Imperm, Veiler, Gamma. What do you hit with these cards? Well, you can still hit the Diviner, obviously, because essentially it does the same thing as Ash. Gamma even destroys it. But you're cutting off that Beatrice play, you're cutting off that extra search, you're getting like some pretty good advantage out of it. But another card that you actually could hit would be the Mu Beta, the Fafnir, the Xyz Link 1, because they summon it and then they use the effect on to dump a card. Typically it's like between Zeta, Alpha, Gamma, whatever one they don't have in their hand. If they open all of them, they can go ahead and grab like their Delta. Beatrice too, like I didn't do it in the combo, but a card that could actually, I don't know if it's a standard, they could actually dump their second ritual spell just to like get more access to them. Like I said, like access to the ritual spell, guys, that's like what the deck really wants to do. So cutting that off. So again, stopping Beatrice is just so strong. But yeah, like Imperm, either hit the Beat or the Diviner, because it doesn't get the leveled gain, and it also doesn't get to dump the Arclight, which it doesn't get to search. But like otherwise Gamma too, like I almost, like if I have Gamma, I would almost rather hit the Mu Beta, just because it does destroy it too. So it, well, it destroys it. You're stopping the dump to the grave of the extender, you're stopping the free ritual materials, and you're stopping all that, and then use the Imperm or the Veiler more on the Diviner, just to stop that Beatrice play, stop the extension, stop the Eva, stop the the free search off Arclight. And if they have the cards to push through, they're most likely going to make like Ultimateness with, I don't know, 2 or 3 negates in hand, and you're gonna have to play through it. Like you're gonna have to play through something if you can't end their turn, and you're gonna have to accept that you're not always gonna end their turn. But that's kind of that. Droll's actually really good versus the deck if you haven't caught on. Nibiru, a lot of time I'll like to chain it to the ritual spell once they're committed into their play really far, especially if you know they search the Ultimateness already, and then it forces them to have another Drytron in hand, and they can summon from the graveyard too, like ritual summon. So even if like Ultimateness or that's in the grave, unfortunately they can get it back, but you force them to have a Drytron in hand if you Nibiru them at that point. So it does really hurt, and sometimes they'll play through it a little bit, but their end board is not going to be nearly as good if they can't make Ultimateness before 5 summons. Some common counters against the deck. Dark Ruler no more and Droplet, obviously turning off that Ultimateness when they can't respond to it, and then you have to play through what? An Orange Light in hand? Like, that's not hard. Maybe a set Droplet. It's not that big of a deal. Forcing them to burn through their hand, then 2 with the Orange Lights. So that's kind of it for main decked cards. Cosmic Cyclone too. Like if you main Cosmic Cyclone, hit that ritual spell. Like what do you have to lose? You're cutting off access to it. If they play 1, you just won the game. If they play 2, you're forcing them to get to the second one to really do anything. Side deck, if you're going first, you're gonna see this in every video, guys. Traps, Summon Limit's good here. Rivalry is good here because they're machines and fairies. Goes and Match, if you get them on Lin Karibo, Goes and Match works good. Summon Limit, Torrential Tribute, Artifact Sanctum, cards like that for going first. Going second, again, Dark Ruin No More, Droplet, Nibiru, Allied Justice Cycle Reader is really good, banishing from their graveyard, especially if you chain two like Attributed Benton, because then you can't Benton. You could use DD Crow as a more versatile card that's better against other decks as well. Otherwise, Kaijus, guys, Kaijus. So that's 10 minutes though. Gotta go. Take care.